Hi, Evan. Welcome to our next podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you. We're going to talk about your book, The Good Part. We're going to talk about some recommendations and whatnot, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a debut author. The Good Parts is coming out July 28th with Grand Central Publishing. I live in a small town outside of Boston, kind of in the woods. So you'll often find me out on a bike ride or down by the lake. And I work in educational publishing as my day job, which has very little in common with fiction publishing, except for the fact that we work on very tight print deadlines.
Yes.
So I'm at least familiar with that. But this year, as a debut fiction novelist, has just been an absolute dream come true. So I feel like I'm on the precipice of releasing this book into the world, and I'm just so excited to talk about it.
Yes, I actually did. Back in the 2010s, I spent about 5 years trying out what my next career will look like. And I did a stint in educational publishing. There was a
No
publisher in
way.
Hoboken. I don't remember the name. I think it's one of the big publishers over there. And it was fascinating because it's the deadlines, but it's so different from publishing like fiction and nonfiction and the big five. But you do get some of the areas of the market and the people and stuff. So it's kind of like I ended up not staying in that job, ended up doing a whole different pivoted career. I'm actually a fraud investigator.
Wow.
So it was like, let's figure it out. My chronically online became so well to figure out I can unlike sleuth people. So
I
yeah.
love that so much. I love that you were
Yes.
like, educational publishing, not for me.
I did so many stints. I work in fields that I had no idea it existed, like
Yeah.
juries. I was like, I don't know what that is. But it was a really cool thing. But let's talk about your path to debut. Was The Good Part the first book that you wrote, or were other books that were hidden in the shelf somewhere else? And it's just basically, this is the one that we sold, and got you the agent and stuff. Talk to us about that path to debut to publish your author.
I love hearing these stories because I think a lot of them sound like mine, where this was not the first book that I wrote. I've been writing since I was little. When I was 12, I wrote, I think it was a 5 POV mermaid novel.
That is pretty intensive. That's a lot of
It's
work,
a
right?
lot of POVs. I printed it out. The only person I let read it is my grandma. And then actually, a couple of years ago, I let my husband read it. And he was like, this is pretty good. But my first serious attempt as an adult was in 2020. Everyone was home during COVID. I wrote my first book and I just fell in love with the discipline required, waking up early, the sort of like alchemy of it, especially when you're doing it every day, and the way that the plot slowly revealed itself to me. I was a total pantser at the time. I queried that. It got a couple of agent bites and it led me to the Yale Writers Workshop, where I learned so much about plot and craft. That book is in a drawer. It will never see the light of day. I queried maybe 120 agents. Then I wrote another book, a Greek myth retelling, and did an R&R. An agent fell in love with the concept and the writing. We did an R&R, and then she signed me. That book died on submission too, not for lack of a couple of editors really falling in love, but the whole team just couldn't get behind it. Then my amazing agent, who was so great editorially, left to go become an editor, and she is absolutely rocking it. She's a total star. And so I was passed to the head of the agency, Michelle
Yeah.
Wolfson, who is just, she's a dream of an agent. I feel so lucky. I had told her that I was working on this book, and I told her the concept. I gave her the pitch, and she was like, I can't wait to read it. Send it whenever it's done. And she read it and just fell in love. And that was the book that sold it. I'm so glad that I had those two really serious attempts, and not just writing those books, both of those books, like rewriting and workshopping. And The Good Parts feels like it was the book that was always meant to be my debut. It's very personal. It was a good journey, a long journey.
We'll talk about The Good Part. So for listeners who are watching, The Good Part is here. It's actually a beautiful cover. It's hardcover, but The Good Part's actually, you have a really high level state plot line, which is someone takes a memory erasing pill, wish that could existed,
I
and the
know.
consequences that happen. And we have love interest, someone in a person's life wanting to re-enter the person's life, knowing that they do not exist in that person's life, and you do this in a past present timeline, so which is a pretty hefty big concept. because you're trying to figure out the timelines to match, but at the same time, not really get the reader engaged with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a tearjerker. It is not. It is get your tissues, which we need. Talk to some of the writing process, the good part, and we'll talk about the actual good part, elevator pitch.
Yeah, I love the past present dual POV is such a big part of, I think, what makes the book special. It was certainly what made it fun to write. So I'm a big Broadway musical theater girl. I was inspired by this musical, Jason Robert Brown's The Last 5 Years,
Yeah.
which I always get confused with Rebecca Searle's In 5 Years because I talk about both a lot when I talk about this book. So it's just gorgeous. And the woman starts telling their story. She starts at the end and he starts at the beginning. They meet in the middle and then they both continue on their journey to the end, to the beginning. And the good part isn't exactly like that, but I knew that I wanted them to meet, the two timelines would meet a little bit more toward the end. And I wanted us to fall in love with Rose and Landon while they were falling in love and then have this mystery of why did she take this pill? They're soulmates. They have been through the ups and downs together. But then why in this timeline? And we're going back and forth and back and forth. Why is Landon chasing her across the world? What went wrong? And I think at certain times in the novel, you identify more with Landon and more with Rose. So it was just really fun. I wrote it straight through. So I knew I needed two discrete character arcs, but I wanted to mirror the present and the past. So going back and forth. I know some people really write like all of one POV and then some write another. I just wanted the chapters to sort of speak to each other and put little Easter eggs in and echoes of past and present.
So, knowing that there's a mystery, knowing the character, did you know the character? My question is, did you plot this out knowing what was the outcome going to look like? Or were you surprised as you pants or rode the way and figure out uncovering the characters, uncovering the motivations, and uncovering the mystery? Was the mystery planned or was the mystery surprising even to you as a writer?
I did more plotting on this book than I ever have.
Yeah.
Just because the mechanics of it were so challenging.
Yeah.
But a lot of things in the middle still surprised me. So I could not have plotted. It was like a very loose outline, but I always knew how it would end.
Yes.
And then I get to the around 30,000 word mark.
Yeah.
An 80 or 90,000 word novel. And then I'm like, okay, I know these characters. I know I'm going to have to go back and fix like everything at the beginning. But yeah, so I knew how it would end. They told me a little bit about how things would change in the middle as I was writing. But I remember I think the book is very hopeful. And I think I was trying to make sure that came through, even as I knew that it would be a tearjerker for a lot of people. And I knew we were driving towards some heavier themes woven in.
So let's do the elevator pitch. We were talking around the good parts, how to make the good parts, how it could come about. But the good part is Rose takes a memory, something happens to her and makes a decision, take a memory erasing pill. And Landon was someone in her life who comes back to doesn't understand why she took it, or maybe trying to figure that one out, and also wants to debar her life in her present moment. And we hear Landon's present moment, Rose's past, and uncover the timelines. Did I get it right?
You got it. Yeah.
But it is a tearjerker. It is a great book. I think you're gonna deal with emotions for you as a reader. But I think in some ways it gives you a sense of hope. But at the same time, it gives you a sense of you connect with these characters. You connect with Rose and you connect with the reason why she had to make that radical decision. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. But at the same time, you also don't want to erase your trauma because that's actually what made you too. So it also puts that question for someone who may have struggled with something traumatic happening. Would you make that decision? Which I think it'll make a great book club, actually, Bug.
I think so too, because I don't know what I would do. I've written these characters who feel very real to me, and I know exactly why they made those decisions, but I still want to talk with people about what would you do in that scenario? What about the people you leave behind? Are you even you anymore? I think that there are a lot of ethical questions that the book raises that are great to talk about too. But yeah, and if these characters are real and messy and making real messy decisions, sometimes you don't like them. And you
Yeah.
want to talk to people about them and those decisions that they've made.
Yeah, I feel like this will be a good book. It's a polarizing book. I think it's in
Yeah.
some ways, and I think it makes for good discussion. I think it's one of those books that really brings the discussion to the forefront, and I think it just brings the what we lost in 2020, which was isolation and loneliness, and bring us to community and going forward. I think this book can drive that community aspect of like connection and like actually seeing a discussion about this, which I'm excited for.
That's so beautiful. I think that's every author's dream, right? Is that we're connecting. You're sitting alone writing this thing.
Yeah.
And it feels like this active connection between you and future readers, but you're not there yet until it's out in the world and people are reading it. So it's just so exciting to think that it has its own life and people will make of it whatever they want and they'll connect with certain pieces of it, or certain pieces of it will rub them the wrong way, or they'll think, how could anyone ever, no matter the circumstances, take that pill? And
Yeah.
it's just really fun to talk to actual people.
Yeah. I'm excited for you and opening up this journey. Getting published is a big deal. And this is a first of many more to come because once a writer, you're always a writer. And this is not stopping, which is exciting. So,
Thank you. I know
um,
it's very exciting.
all right. So let's talk about your reading life. I know you read all genres. I am very similar. We have similar reading tastes. We like upmarket fiction. We like some romantasy. We like some contemporary romance, ACOTAR. We like similar things, which is a little bit of escape sometimes, good world building, some propulsive romances and contemporary, and then just the books that we can discuss with our friends or new strangers. Let's talk about your book recommendations. Want to go over the recommendation? I do have them if you want me to list them to go over.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick us off there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that's your reading taste too. I feel like I have, depending on the day, the week, I'm heading toward debut. So right now I'm craving comfort reads, like rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses, another romantasy, because I can just ease in versus something that might challenge me to think a little bit more that I haven't read. But I love my recommendations are centered around maybe if you've already read this book, you'll love the good parts, something to
Yes.
read next if you read the good parts. So Rebecca Serle is so fabulous. In 5 years, I know I talked about that at the top of the show, is just, it is a comp. Everyone cops this for a reason. It's just
Yeah.
such a beautiful, powerful what if story. We have this type A Manhattan lawyer who thinks she has it all figured out. And then one day she wakes up and the person in her bedroom is not her husband. And she's, what happened? What does this mean? My life is going to look like in 5 years. But why this book has stuck with me is, well, a couple reasons. I think without spoiling anything, the ending has you thinking about what a happy ending really means. And I think that it's just such a powerful meditation on female friendship, which is something that I really crave in the books that I read. Really beautiful, definitely a tearjerker.
Yes. I'm actually adding this one. For some reason, I read other Rebecca's book. The Dinner List is the one that I read and I remember early. But this one, for some reason, I just missed. So I'm just going to bump it up. I think the idea of like that question, but also female friendships is it's such an important part of our adulthood. Romantic relationship is important, but I think the female friendships, the community that supports us, it's just as important to a conversation. I don't think it's often been written in a way that just conversation goes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the idea of what is a soulmate? Can a friend be a soulmate? We have
Yeah.
these incredibly deep relationships with friends. So, yeah, I think that she just does that so beautifully. I
Yeah.
aspire to write female friendship like she does.
Yeah. What's your next recommendation?
So, in a similar vein, a great what if is Nikki Erlick's The Measure. So, this society comes together and pulls apart when these boxes come to everybody's doors with a string. That's how long you'll live. And you can look or not look. And that question right there is so powerful. You read the first like 30 pages and you're already like, all right, get me to book club. I'm ready to talk about this what if. And I think it's just another, there's a large cast of characters. We're sort of weaving through, there's some fates intertwining. There's some great meditations on best friendships, on relationships, on what it means for those people around you if you look or don't look. But I love the what if. And the writing is just really spectacular.
You're adding new books to my TBR, which is a very lengthy TBR, but
I bet.
Oh my gosh. And then we got Every Version of You by Natalie Messier, which is another debut, actually.
Yes, so that came out the beginning of July, and it was the recent Target Book Club pick. It is it's such a great second chance romance with a
Yeah.
great what if. What would you do if you could start your life over from the moment where everything changed, right?
Yeah.
Her voice on the page is just it's propulsive. She's so funny. And it sneaks up on you. The sort of commentary about what it means to be human, what a second chance looks like and what love is. She's just absolutely a writer to watch. And it's such a fun read. And there's an amazing cat.
Oh my gosh.
Which is also something that I'm looking for in my books.
Yeah, I agree. Evan, tell us where you find you online.
I am primarily on Instagram at Evann Normandin Writes, and you can also check out my website, evannormandin.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks for listening to the What to Read Next. For more book lists, cozy reads, and library tips, visit the whattoreadnextblog.com. Your next great read might be waiting there.